Jimmy's mom. Yeah, it's just like the slow way he talks.
These are going to be when I'm making little stories to intro to this, it's just going to be impression after impression.
Yeah. Jimmy's mom.
Dude, have you ever thought of doing an open mic?
Open mic?
Like a comedy open mic?
I've not.
I imagine if you did that and you just did a list of impressions for like 5 minutes or something, I imagine you'd kill.
Probably. Maybe. I just feel like because I've seen so many like stand-ups before where like it's like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of pressure with like being able to like almost improv on the spot, like where like say something happens with like an audience member or something like that, and you're able to like recall a joke. It's just like, just see how quick wit you are. I just feel like I'm not quick wit enough for it, but I don't know.
If you're doing impression work, that's a whole other fucking ball game.
Exactly.
You'll see masters of that. Like, I don't know if you're a fan of Andrew Schultz.
I've seen his videos. Yeah.
He's someone who can tear into a crowd, and he'll do an entire special of just crowd work. Like, I'm here for an hour, and I'm doing nothing but burning people in the crowd.
Yeah. It's funny. I've seen a lot of his stuff.
But I'm telling you, man, if you just planned out a little set of saying funny shit, it's one of the most wonderful highs you can get. You just stand in front of people and just hear a crowd of folks laughing.
Yeah. You know, it happens.
It's a good time.
It happens a lot on Discord because most of the times we're playing like Valorant or like Apex or something like that. So it's just like in like Valorant talk, we'll just be like, "How the fuck did you not see them in the corner, you dumbass?" And it's just like Carl would never say that.
This is Carl, all grown up, you know.
Yeah, he sounds exactly the same.
All right. So going back to the big changes in your life.
Right.
So we have keto. We have this, I assume you found energy levels, fitness levels, slim look.
Yeah. So to kind of like wrap up like the keto part of it, so a total of 6 months and down 40 pounds.
Wow.
So I think I currently weigh around like 180 to 185, up and down. Like I'm the ladder of like up and down of 185.
And I'm always curious, what kind of exercises do you do?
So I got into fitness during the last month of my keto. Other than that, I didn't really do too much fitness, but I do the splits of push-pull leg. I did those.
Oh, you and Robert, eh?
Yeah.
On the push-pull, yeah.
Yeah. Except Robert didn't really work out with us too often. Like he's a lone wolf kind of guy.
I feel that.
So he definitely does a lot better with like his workouts like when he's alone. Excuse me. But yeah, so we followed this one regimen. Like it was like an Excel spreadsheet of like your compound workouts, like benching and like overhead presses, all that stuff for each like section. And then you had all these like accessories and assisted workouts. But then at one point it was just like, damn, it just feels like the same thing over and over. We need to add some like more spice to this. We gotta like stray from some of these things at one point to like feel a bit more
like I want to do this.
Yeah. But when I went into working out, I never had the idea of like getting like super big, like bulging muscles or anything. I'm just like I just kind of wanted to be like slender, like kind of like slim fit.
Like the model fit.
Yeah, it's like slim fit where like you can like flex and show some muscles still, but like I'm not trying to be
bodybuilder.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, I guess like volleyball fit type deal where
It's
like,
a good kind of fit where you're like running around
a
lot, agile, coordinated.
Yeah, so I love volleyball, but I got into tennis.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, I think Robert was saying he got into that as well. Where you're just doing like suicides constantly throughout.
Yeah, it's definitely that. It's just back and forth. You're just chasing after this ball and just smacking the shit out of it.
Yes.
Like that's very fun.
Yeah, especially when it gets your reflexes to like ninja level.
Yeah, so I think I've only been playing tennis now for like 2.5 months, but it's a lot of fun. It's like I've gotten a lot of progress since the beginning. Like my hand-eye still kind of shit, but it's way better now, and like I feel like way more fluent with it. At first, like my form was terrible. I think I like threw out my shoulder at one point too, just because I tried to smack the ball and it just like popped my shoulder. I was like, all right, well, I'm out for a week. So there was that. But yeah, for like, I guess back to like fitness, I think at one point I tried to like cater my workouts to be more relating to either tennis or volleyball. And then I started like getting mixed up between because I'm like, well, one works out like a lot more of the bottom half and the other one works out like a decent upper half. Whereas it's like, so now what do I really want? So I just kind of just did like kind of like a mix of both.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. If you do that, fuck yeah. In a sense, yeah, sorry about that. If you do that in a way where you just kind of do it when I feel like doing it, today I just feel like doing volleyball. Fuck yeah, let's go get some volleyball. Today I feel like doing tennis. I found that takes you really far.
Yeah.
As opposed to just having and this might be person to person, in fact, probably is, very structured. Like today I must do volleyball in almost a obsessive compulsive way. Not necessarily in a disorder fashion, but like I like the habit and the very structure to get this result with my body. But man, I'm a huge preacher of this, to make your workouts play, large in part. Because every now and then it might just be grind. Like I'm just fucking got to get those reps in sort of thing. But if you do like 80-90% is fun play, that can last you so long.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's very much a mindset of how you want to go about it. You could be doing literally the same exact thing, but like your mindset, if like you're just putting yourself in a certain situation, it feels a lot different. For me, when I'm working out, I'm listening to anime music.
Nice.
So
always fight scenes.
Yeah. Have you watched? Do you watch Demon Slayer? Dang.
Heard a lot about it though.
But there's a song or like a soundtrack that's playing during like one of the most intense fights that there was in the newest season. I won't really say anything, but the soundtrack that they have for it is like super intense, super hype. So I'm listening to that soundtrack as I'm working out, and it's just this song. It's like 3 minutes. I have it on a loop.
Yes.
So and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I have to get strong to be able to help this guy out. So I have to push through this set. I have to get one more rep in. So then, like, I put myself in that mindset where, like, that now it just seems way more fun than just, like, pushing a set. And I'm just like, ouch. Like,
for why? This kind of vague, emotionless reason, like, I guess be fit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now I'm preparing for battle to help my brethren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm putting, like, I need to go to war.
Yes.
So I put myself in that position where it's like now it feels like a lot better to do it.
Oh my god, dude. I've heard of Joe Rogan was in some workout contest with his friends, and he was on an elliptical, and he just played on a loop a John Wick scene where he's in a fight scene.
Interesting.
Yeah, right? Because it's like, yes, war.
Yeah.
War.
It's very interesting to like hear what people listen to when they do work out, because I hear from Robert a lot of the times too. A lot of people will like the basic idea of like, oh, I need like super pump up songs, something that just makes me like just like loud and just like gets me through it. But then other times other people can listen to like things that aren't like as of like of that caliber of like a pump up. From Robert's perspective, I remember he told me he used to listen to motivational speeches. Yeah. Just like a person talking.
There you go.
So like it's not even music, it's nothing like that same pump anymore, but it's like someone talking about like maybe like a rags to riches or like, you know, like survive type of like motivation, like push through this.
Yeah, man.
But it's like maybe there's no like backtrack to it, like no soundtrack or anything. It's just this person talking, like this monologue, and he's like pushing through his sets from just a person talking like that. So like I just always thought it was like interesting, like what gets them pumped up.
And if you could put a beat behind that, that might be extra motivational. There's this channel called Meaning Wave on YouTube, and the guy does essentially that. He'll play motivational like words of wisdom, shit like that, but he'll put little lo-fi equivalent beats behind it, and it gives it much more of a kick. You can listen to it much more in the background, and it's much more enjoyable to listen to. Yeah, man. So what kind of gets you... Now, okay, here's a fun one. What movie scene can you think of that's gotten you really emotional? Not necessarily pumped up. If you say pumped up, that's fine, but really a strong emotion when you watch this.
Ooh, okay. The first one that comes to mind, and it's because when I saw this scene, I ugly cried. Yes. I like sobbed and like bawled my eyes out.
It was the movie Coco.
It was Dora. No. It was The Quiet Place. Have you seen Quiet Place? No, really. It's John Krasinski, the guy who plays Jim in The Office. It's like this entire movie based around a like kind of like a post-apocalyptic world where there's creatures scouring around this like the earth, and they are very sound sensitive. So any sound that they hear at all, they like kind of go to that and just cause
Like Last of Us vibes.
yeah, like destruction. Like they have these like cleaver like hands that they like crawl on, like they crawl on, and they have this like demogorgon like mouth from like Stranger Things. But they open up their ears to be able to hear more, but they're blind. They don't see you, but if they hear you, they can almost like pinpoint know where you are. That's like how good their hearing is. So the movie, I forget the statistic of it, but there are very, very minimal lines in that movie because everything is done through sign language. And
Hopefully they have subtitles on the screen. Okay.
Yeah, they subtitle the sign language, but it's like such a beautiful like movie that it's like you're so used to being able to like hear all this different dialogue, but now you're getting so much story and emotion through like just expressions and sign language. And there's like should I
Oh, spoiler alert! Fuck yeah.
Okay, spoiler alert. The dad, like him.
Oh, wait, can you tell me the build up too?
Yeah. So there's the daughter is already was already deaf, so she has like kind of like a hearing aid, and the dad has always been working on like creating a better hearing aid where like maybe she can like hear again, but like she's at first like super discouraged, like you keep trying, but like it's not gonna work. Why do you think this one's gonna work this time? And then he was just like, well, I'm not gonna give up on it, like I'm gonna try and get this to work for you. And
wait, the daughter was trying to discourage, well, not try, but
like she was discouraged that it just never worked. So like she was like, why are you even trying anymore? So she like in a sense like kind of like built up this thought that like the father doesn't like listen to her and doesn't like care for like how she feels and thinks about it, to a point where like she thinks that like he doesn't love her. Like she created that like illusion and that thought in her mind
because he's trying to make hearing aids for her.
It's more so because also okay, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit more. There's 3 total kids in the movie. A daughter, a son, and there was another like younger son who died in the very beginning of the movie because the daughter had given him this little toy rocket that he really wanted. And this was already in a post-apocalyptic world, but she didn't think about taking the batteries out of it. The mom already took the batteries out because they no noise, can't have noise. So she gave her little brother this toy, but then he really wanted the batteries, so he like kind of grabbed the batteries last second without anyone seeing and put it in, and he didn't like turn it on or anything. But at one point they're on like these railroad tracks, and he's like playing with it, and then he presses a button, and like this rocket's now playing these like yeah, exactly. And then they all turn around and they're just like
Run.
But yeah, not even that, but like now the father dropped everything, because like once you already make a sound, that thing is gonna come, so you may as well.
Are there a bunch of them?
There could be. Yeah, they don't know. I don't think there's like a specific amount of like they never.
I didn't know if it was like one beast that lurks or if it's a bunch and you'll get
you can kill these things. It's just like there's a ton of them. You don't know how many there are. I think they came from like a meteor or something like that. So they're very like alien creatures. And so it goes off, and he's like sprinting to try and grab his son now, who's just standing there playing with the toy, and like it's just flashing back between the father running toward him and like the son there, and then it's also showing like a camera angle of something in the woods now moving, and then the last second before he could grab his son, the thing just comes and snatches the son and like slices him in half. And so then he just like stood there, and like because he can't, like he doesn't want to die either, he like stopped in his tracks after like the son got like snatched, and he realized that his son just died in front of his eyes. He just stopped in his tracks from his like sprint, and he's just like, and it's just like quiet, and it's just like, holy shit, the amount of like that you have to hold back from that. But then it's like it's very based around like family in this movie, and it's just like sticking together and being strong. So then like later on in the movie, with like how now like that daughter blames herself for not, or for giving that rocket now to him. So she like blames herself a lot that her little brother's dead. I was like, fuck. So like she takes a lot of that anger out at times and projects it onto her father as well. So that's why a lot of the time she thinks that her father doesn't love her because of like the fuck up that she had in the very beginning of the movie. So then at one point, there was a lot that happened in like the farm that they lived at, and like shit went down, and like now their farmhouse is like surrounded by like 2 or 3 of these things, and they're trying to like just survive. And at one point, the father sees his 2 kids like being pinned down, like they're in like a truck, and this thing is trying to like kill them, and like it's slicing up the truck. It didn't hit them or anything, but the father was just like well, there's only one way for me to save my kids. And so like that he lets out this, he like drops everything. He dropped the shovel that he had in his hand that he's gonna fight this thing. He just drops the shovel. It hears the shovel drop, so it stops slicing the truck. And then now he wants to try and lure this like thing away, but instead he kind of just stands there. But before that, he looks at his daughter and he signs to her like, I've always cared for you, I've always loved you, like don't ever think that I never cared and stuff like that. Then he drops the shovel, and then he lets out this like loud scream to get this thing to like come to him, and it kills him. And then the truck kind of just like...
And then it goes back and kills the kids in the truck. No.
Yep. And then
life sucks and then you die.
The truck just slowly like kind of rears like a little downhill away from like the thing that creature's like view. But like that's not the end of the movie, but like that scene itself was so powerful and like emotional that like every time I watch it, I cry. It's just like... It's just such a strong scene in the movie where like they base it around like not being able to talk at all, and then here he is letting out this like giant scream, sacrificing himself for his kids. I'm like, holy shit, great movie.
It sounds like it.
Very good movie. Like probably in my top 3 or top 5 movies for me of all time.
What would be another top 3 movie?
Oh, Dark Knight. Love the Dark Knight.
Wait, is that the one with Joker?
Yeah, so that's the Christian Bale Batman.
Are we talking about all 3 of them, or?
I guess more so the Dark Knight in specific. I loved all 3 movies, but for some like the Dark Knight itself was...
Ben Affleck ain't got shit.
It's very different Batmans, but I didn't necessarily enjoy that Batman necessarily either. It's like he definitely played into a much more gadget-based and like
superhero-y.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just when you implement... I don't know. I've never been that big on Superman. So, like, him being into the movie, too, with, like, Justice League, I was like...
Nah, I feel like they missed some key component. But, yeah, dude, the Joker Batman...
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. Because Heath Ledger, like, changed it up, like, how Jokers were ever played. And, like, he'll always be famed to be, like, the best Joker. There has been, like, really good Jokers out there, for sure.
Jack Nicholson is a good one, but Heath Ledger's
Joker...
That might be better than Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Yeah.
I might go that far.
Joaquin Phoenix's Joker played like in a different part of it as well. But like it's like because you get to see so much more of like the behind the scenes of like what Joker went
created
through.
It.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was a very different type of Joker, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a whole different character when you compare the 2 movies.
Yeah.
But oh my God, watching that transformation for Joaquin Phoenix, and that's one of the my favorite parts of that movie is that it shows you how like that could be you.
Yeah.
Or like anybody you know.
You guys painted him to be this person and you like treated him like shit to a point where like, nah, you've created this guy now. And now he's going to be this like leader of people who have been oppressed and felt this way now.
What do you think about his quote at the end of the movie? Spoiler alert. Big spoiler alert. Where he shoots the guy in the show and he says, "You get what you fucking deserve." What do you think about that quote?
Ooh. Because it's like he plays it off as a joke, and like he says it in a setup of like a joke, right? Beforehand, he's like, "What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that treats him like trash?" I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the exact quote. You get what you fucking deserve. So it's like, it's almost like a Just Desserts type of feel, where it's like you kind of like you invited him onto the show to now like make more of a joke out of him, like because he's like, I don't know, they're just kind of pinned him into a corner, and so there's only like one way for him to come out of this now.
Yeah,
And
it's so weird that they painted him as like, it was almost like they brought him on a hero's journey. Like while he's going through, after he kills his fucking mom and he basks in the sunlight, I got flashbacks of Simba being held up to the rising sun, right? Like it's the birth of the hero, you know, the rising sun. It's a very common mythological theme. And then you can see him, he's standing on top of the car, almost like a Jesus. He spreads his arms to the people as he smiles. It's like, whoa. The fact that he could be a hero to anybody is a very weird part of human nature.
Yep.
That he's not an obvious total villain.
Yeah. And like it can kind of almost be like recalled to the whole like Avatar like Azula thing, like when he finally got dressed up and it was the day for him to go onto that show. It was like I think Murray's show.
Murray, yeah.
Murray. So he got dressed up on the show and like he's just in what is the word? Kind of accepting it now. So he just see him like dance all crazily, hopping down the stairs.
And it's this. Not even just acceptance, although it's definitely a part, but it's I'm embracing it.
Yeah,
I love this now in some weird fucked up way.
So he's just embracing that like that part of him now, and it's just like whatever happens, it happens, and I'm just gonna like no longer let people step all over me. I'm just gonna take it my way, and he did exactly that.
Yeah.
So like it's a very different part of like Joker, whereas like when you see in the other movies where like he's already a villain, you know, you're rooting for Batman and whatnot to like catch this guy. But
Yeah, I think it was go Heath Ledger. That wasn't the vibe you got.
Yeah, but then you're thinking like, oh wow, like he played a very genius like Joker, like he played out Batman, like he had Batman like kind of he was always a step behind in a sense. But then with this Joker, it's like a different type of feel where it's like
I'm just an everyday person. I'm not a criminal mastermind.
yeah, but you made me out to be one.
Yeah.
And, like, now I am. So like it's I don't know. It's crazy because like you can reflect on like how it is like IRL for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like
what to do about when you see someone who's panhandling on the side of the street, right? It's like how far away is their life from the Joker's life?
right.
And I heard someone saying there's a lot of truth to this. It's like, okay, you could see that person and get this, you know, this spark of do-gooder feeling, and you take them into your house and, you know, you try to help them out of their shitty situation. But he's like, that's probably not going to help that person. It's probably just going to fuck up your life a lot, fuck up their life maybe even more in a strange way. You're giving them maybe more access to money and things along those lines, which isn't always a great thing if they just go out and buy drugs with it immediately. And you're just stuck with this, what do I do? Because it stabs me when I see someone like in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's like it's another like mindset type of thing. Like when you're going about it to try and help someone, you can't like think of it as like, oh, maybe they'll do wrong, like they'll do bad with it. Maybe you gotta just like you give it to them for its face value and hope they do good with it. Hope that they get better with whatever the situation it was. I've gone out to Philly many times where like on the streets there's just people holding up signs for money and stuff like that. If I have some spare like couple like dollars, I'll just give it to them.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're saving it up for like whatever else it is, I've done now like the part that I wanted to do, which was the goodness of my heart to help them. It is now on them if they are going to use that to help themselves or for the worse, and which I'm thinking, and in the end of it, they'll feel that guilt upon themselves. Like I probably should have used that for something better.
And you know, that gets really weird, man. I heard from Russell Brand, because he used to be a heroin addict and crack and like really deep shit. And when he went to a rehab center, one of the first things the nurses told him was, good job finding a way to survive. Boom. And then it's like, okay, if you give that person money, they'll just use it to buy drugs or something. It's like, well, what exactly is a drug in that situation? It could be the medicine that's keeping that person alive. Like it could be the only reason they're not killing themselves. Like it could be that real.
Yeah.
And then maybe you give them that money to that. They use a little heroin that keeps them alive a little longer. And then maybe when they get to live longer, something will happen that can help them get out of that situation. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like it's so hard to try and like map it out for yourself. So that's why for me everything like I just like I hope it just does good for you.
Yeah.
Like I hope you feel like I hope whatever it is that you needed, like this will help you get better in a sense. Whatever it is.
And I hope if anything they get a touch, like they get a feeling that people actually care about them. As opposed to the Joker where everyone just steps over me and treats me like shit.
Right.
Like just know that there are people out there who actually want you to do well. They do. And maybe they don't want to devote all their life to that. And maybe there's something wrong about that. That you're kind of knowing that's going on and in a sense just letting it go on. It's a very strange moral question. I'm not exactly sure what to do about it. But yeah, I kind of like the path you've set so far. That's what I've done a lot myself. Just help in a little way if I can in the moment and then just like salute and move on your way, right? Like
It's like I feel like a lot of good deeds nowadays are like they go a little bit underappreciated, but at the same time they outweigh the bad in a lot of ways as well. Where like say some person could have like received like shit for like from 5 different people, but then there was that one good person that came along and like helped them a little bit. It's like that part of like really they make you think like, oh, you know, not all of humanity is like lost. So then that kind of keeps them going still, even though they received shit from like the past 5 like 10 people or something like that. That one person has now like enough encouragement to like probably keep going. So like, okay, I don't mind getting shit from 5 to 10 more people if
people like that exist.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's another person bound to come along.
And what if I could find a whole community of people like that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, it gets pretty deep with that.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, so other major changes in your life, I'm curious.
Other major changes. I mean, I feel like nothing too crazy, nothing too out of the way as like maybe some other people, because like obviously I'm still job hunting, so there hasn't been that change yet, although I did just go through an interview. Hopefully that went well. But like other than that, like yeah, like I went through this same thing a lot of people did after like high school, is just either go to college or just try and find a job, whether or not they went to college. So it's just there was that. Other than that, just been trying to keep in touch with like my social circles of like Robert and like just my family and stuff. And still continuing to just do something with my degree in order to now like find that next chapter of my life. Like I feel like I'm reaching like potentially like an end of like one chapter, trying to open up another one, and that opens up like so many different ideas and like side stories that are like bound to happen now. But just waiting on the closing part of this chapter in order to get to that point.
It's kind of wild to notice how many lifetimes you live in one life.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure. I think of it like in a very much of like a book form, and like you don't have to read it in any specific order either. It's just like different chapters are just different parts of my life that sure, if you want to read the first chapter to see like how I got to this point, sure, but you don't necessarily need to read that part in order to understand what's going on in this current chapter of it.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And it's a cool thing you said that it's nothing major crazy has stuck out to me when I look back on my life, but to notice that some of the biggest things that impact someone's life are the million little things, right? That go through the daily. Now I'm kind of, I want to get to like the heart of what you care about, which just kind of sounds a little silly and very vague. But I don't know. I kind of want to know, like, what do you love? What do you hate? What are you really afraid of? What really excites you? Things like that.
So I love being around a lot more people as opposed to like in high school. I felt like I was much more introverted, and I've gone and like, I've like kind of broke out of that shell. And I would say I'm definitely more an extroverted introvert now, where it's just like I love going out, being with friends, but sometimes I also do just love being at home and just like being by myself. But more often than not, I'd rather be out.
Got you.
So more often than not, I'd love to go out as long as like it's like planned out and everything. Other than that, if nothing's planned out, I'm gonna sit at home, listen to music, and probably just like play some games, like, continue to job hunt, and just like talk to people over Discord. And that's like been my routine. But so I want to surround myself with more people, positive people for sure, and then
What does that mean to you? What does a positive person look like?
positive person. So like someone that like doesn't like no like toxicity in that sense of like where they're always talking so down on themselves. Like sure, it's inevitable. People are going to think that way of themselves. But then now you have like I want to have like a group of people around where like is like that support group almost where like there's sometimes people feel like they don't have anyone to lean on to like talk about their problems and like vent it out. The other people just kind of bottle it up, and at one point they'll just explode and hate like or say something that they didn't mean to someone that they do truly care about or something like that. And I wouldn't want that for anyone. So just trying to be part of this like positive group, like one out of like however many people there are, be part of this like positive group of people where like whether or not I'm going through something, it's something that I can also deal with by myself in a sense, but I know I can also lean to you to talk about it and vent. And while I don't look for any advice, I just have someone to at least like talk it out to where like that way I don't have to bottle it up because like you may not experience the same things that I'm experiencing, but at least you're a shoulder for me to lean on or like a ear that'll listen. So definitely don't want like people to feel left out. So I want to like have that feel for everyone, and I want to be that person for people. And so like cutting out the like toxicity as well. This is like people who just are there to constantly bring others down and like talk shit down on people. We have too much of that already with like a ton of different like political wars that are going on. So like why add more like fuel to the flame when you can try and be, you know, you can be, I guess like being that like good person or positive person is like out of the norm now. So like it's harder to find those good people. So like when you find them, like, you know, keep them close. And I'm trying to like put myself out there more to those people that like I am someone that you can talk to about whatever you want.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And that makes me wonder, is that idea of, you said something about people not being as positive en masse nowadays, people being maybe more taking joy from others' suffering, where I kind of like to bring people down. I got a little sadistic kick out of it. Or I like to shit talk things, this, that, and the other. I wonder if that's just more popular in the internet realm and it can seem more popular en masse, or if it truly has become more popular en masse.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it just kind of seems that way, whether or not like it's like true or not, whether it's like there's actually less of like positive people. It's just kind of sort of felt like it morphed that way. So like if I start to kind of feel that way, then I'm gonna still try and do something about it. But all of that kind of stems from like at one point I did kind of feel alone. This is the like the dark part of like college that I was in. When I went to Rowan, I didn't have like the close or like group of friends that I was like so used to. Like in high school, we kind of just like knew everyone. I was like very much like middle ground of like I didn't like fuck with anyone, but at the same time like I kind of stuck to a very small group of people, like a clique of mine. Like my closest friends at the time were like Robert and Christian, and we just like talked about like everything together. But we never like messed with other people. We never had beef with other people. We never.
That's such a funny concept because me neither in my group.
Yeah, we never like had beef with people. We didn't talk down on anyone. We're just like, if you knew us, you knew that we were just like chill people. So like,
wait, that's not entirely true. Dal had some beef, but not as a group. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah. It was just like we didn't want to like start anything. There was no point in starting anything. I have too much like going on in my own life right now. Why am I gonna add more to it? So then when I went to Rowan, I was just like, damn, it's like a completely different like environment now. The people that I was so used to seeing like 7:25 in the morning to 1:59 in the afternoon, and you know leaving on the buses, people driving home, walking home. It's like all that is like different now. College life is very much different.
Like thrown into a desert, kind of.
Yeah, almost. It's like, what the hell? Who? Everyone here is like gonna just try to get through classes and go home, or go back to their dorm, or go back to their frat houses and just like party. So like, no one wants to necessarily like socialize with another random person anymore. I'm just like, damn, that sucks. So I wanted to find like a group of people to like just like talk to, that way it doesn't feel like such a dread going to classes every day, where like I have to like listen to like hours and hours of lectures and do quizzes and exams. Like I want to have like at least some sort of social aspect rather than just being alone with my problems. So then like I couldn't find that for like the first like year, for the whole first year. So it was very like darker time, just not being able to like really talk to anyone. And I was like, for the first time ever going through coding classes, so I was just like, this is hard as shit. The fuck is this? Because there's other people who had coding classes in high school, and so they came in with prior knowledge, while like our high school didn't offer coding. Our closest thing was probably CAD, which was the just graphic design. Which was nothing at all close
Like
to coding. Just not close at all to coding. And so I couldn't find that group. And then the first year, I also failed 2 classes. And like I said, like earlier, I was like typically always like a studious type of kid, in a sense that high school was easy and I didn't have to do anything to get by. So I was like, I took the same idea with college. I thought, I was like, oh, maybe I don't have to do that much. But I did like kind of minimal work and I didn't get by. And I was like, well, fuck.
Shit, yeah.
And I was like, damn, my first year of college and I failed 2 classes. Like, am I going to be like falling behind and everything now? And I was just like, oh man, my parents are going to be like super pissed. Like, I'm going to like, I disappointed people. I have no one to talk about this to and stuff like that. So I was like super in my own shell with all of this stuff. And like everything was bottling up and I had all this pressure to perform well from my parents. And like, I kind of like made up this like illusionary like expectation of like what society expects, and I didn't fit into that. And I was just like, well, I'm like underperforming in every aspect possible. So then I was like super hard on myself, and with all these other things, like school was definitely a factor of like a dark time. Like arguments and different pressure between my parents and me was like another thing, to a point where like I like isolated myself for a while and just like kind of closed off and like didn't talk about my problems to anyone. Then like at one point I didn't explode on anyone or anything, but I didn't want to feel those things anymore. So I attempted suicide at one point in my life. I tried to OD, and it didn't work, obviously.
Thank God, yeah.
I'm here. I tried to OD, and the crazy thing is like, when I was younger until now, I was always prone to like stomach viruses. So like I always had like stomach problems and stuff like that. I'm good with that now, but like going through all of that before, like my parents knew like if I ate something, like my stomach was like kind of weaker then. So then at one time at that point where I did try to just like take all these different pills, whatever the fuck it was, I just dumped it into my mouth. And then I laid in bed hoping I wouldn't wake up. And at one point I woke up and I was like, weird. Okay. And I'm here. And I also feel like absolute shit because whatever I took is now like destroying my body. So I needed to throw up. I had a huge headache, migraine, everything was hurting. And I was like, maybe I'm still gonna die. Who knows? But like, the initial plan failed. Thankfully, because I have like way more of like an appreciation for like me being here now and the people around me. But I just I played it off to them, to my parents and my brother at the time, as if I just had a stomach virus. And like, while I was so scared, when I was talking about earlier, like being scared of dying and stuff like that, I at that point was like ready to just let go. And I don't know what overcame me to just like say like, yeah, fuck it, like I'm ready to leave and just leave all the problems behind, which would have just caused way more problems in the long run. But here I am. Thankfully. So that was like the darker part of my life that I'm so glad I overcame. The next year of school went by so much better. Like I found a group of like people that I really fit into, and like I made time to like really be part of this group too. It was a Vietnamese student association. And so I like not only was like a bigger group of people, but people that I could relate to as well. And then I got super active with that club. And then at the very last year of my university, I became the president of the club too.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? Why didn't you continue down that dark road, do you think?
It was kind of just like an awakening almost. Like it was like legitimately like a life-changing experience at that point where it's just like what I tried to do just then didn't work. So in part of my mind, somewhere like this like little tunnel was like a light that was just saying like it's not meant to be that way. Like that was just fate that it wasn't supposed to happen that way. So I was like, okay, so I guess I'll play into that for now. And then I played into it, and that tunnel just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And just like now I'm through that tunnel and feeling like super good about myself, and haven't had those types of thoughts ever since. Feeling super good, surrounding myself with like good people. That's why I've like at that point like also thought of like putting myself around positive people as well as trying to be a positive person myself, because I don't want anyone to go through what I did where they felt like they didn't have people, because like you have every option to also talk to anyone about your problems at all, like whether or not it be like people you didn't talk to for years, to just reach out to someone to just talk about it. But like at that point I just wanted to isolate myself, so I don't want anyone to ever feel that way. So like if there's something that you need to get off your chest, small or big problem, like just get it out. It will feel way better than than to just bottle it up, because you never know what's going to happen. And I definitely went down a dark path that way, because there was a lot. Like school was probably like on the lower end of like the list, but that was like still something that contributed to that factor of like feeling that way. So yeah, just definitely wanting to be part of that, like that group that just
it strikes me that if I had to bet, I would bet that every person, maybe even a few times in their life, they'll touch something really, really dark. Like really, really dark. And I'm so fascinated in what brings people there in the first place and how to get out. Like how to find a way to thrive or to at least survive in the worst of possible places. And it hits me so hard. Like if someone's in prison, right? The commonly understood worst thing that you can do to them is, or one of the worst things that can be done to them is throw them solitary confinement. And the fact that you could have felt so alone, even though you're surrounded by people and there isn't a guard keeping you, you know, in your room. Why do you think it was hard for you to find people? Would you say that was maybe, what do you think was like the biggest thing that put you in that dark place? Do you think loneliness was maybe at the top of that list?
It wasn't necessarily like loneliness in a sense, where it was just like, instead of trying to talk about my problems to other people, because I was thinking I was like, oh, they're probably dealing with a lot for themselves already. Why would I add on my burdens and my problems if I'm just venting it out? Because at that time I didn't have that mindset of like, oh, I'm not burdening these people. I'm just kind of just sort of venting it out. But so like I thought that I'd be throwing all of my problems onto them and all the stuff that they already have to deal with, that like they either wouldn't want to listen, they wouldn't know how to go about it. So I just kind of stuck to myself. I'm just like, I'd rather maybe like for the sake of them, I won't burden them.
So this sort of almost compassion. I want to relieve other people of suffering. I don't want to make them suffer more. Plus all the other problems I'm sure you were facing at the time, compounded with this loneliness, and it was just like this wild cocktail of suffering.
It was just like this witch's cauldron of just like a bunch of bullshit that's just being stirred, and it's just like, then it was there, and it completed, and then I was just like, well, fuck. And then just, yeah, I don't know. It was a lot, but
I'm curious, what do you think, having lived through that, would be some keys to not getting to that point in the first place and to being able to come back if you have gotten to that place?
So to try and prevent yourself from getting to that place is currently, I guess, the same advice that I would give almost if you were already, like if you've been through there already, would be to currently surround yourself with like those like good people that you trust and everything, people that like you really hold close and like you like share this like connection, like an actual deep connection with, and like they're like people who won't talk down on you at all, like actually positively good people around, and like just put yourself around those types of people, because then I feel like if you have those sort of problems and you're around those people, they'll know when something's off. They'll know when something's wrong, so they'll ask you, and it's then up to you to trust them that they'll help you. So just talk about those things to them. And then if you've already been there and you've gotten like now you're gotten out and you don't want to be there ever again, it's the same advice. It's just kind of put yourself around those people and make sure that you never get back there, because if you haven't been there versus you have been there, you also don't want to go back. It's like a cycle of it too. So
That reminds me of something that a psychologist said regarding whether or not you have a true friend. And it was something along the lines of, if you can tell them your problems and they don't immediately make fun of you or tell you about some worse thing that happened to them at some point and then just start to make it about themselves. Like if you're surrounded by someone who's doing that and doesn't just, or maybe they'll tell you how stupid you are for being in that situation or insult you, things like that. If someone can just listen to it, one, just listen, and then two, maybe also help in some way, like then you know you found a real friend. And if the person isn't doing that, then it's not a friend.
Yeah. It doesn't make them like a bad person, but it doesn't make them like the best person to talk to about that problem either, necessarily. Because for one, they probably don't know how to go about it, and they could be saying the wrong thing that could be pushing you a bit further away. But yeah, if you're talking to someone and they're just trying to one up your situation and be like, oh yeah, I've been through there and worse, like
you don't know what pain
me.
is, buddy. I've felt real pain.
It's like, yeah, but it's just not about you right now. It's about me.
Literally.
Like, sure, you may had it worse, but I'm currently dealing with it.
And there's a weird point of relativity, like this saying the worst thing you've been through is the worst thing you've been through, and you're comparing it like you haven't lived through the Holocaust or a genocide or some wild shit like that, and maybe the worst thing that you've had up to that point is, I don't know, the Wi-Fi doesn't work or something ridiculous like that. But it's still eliciting from you a strong emotional response, right?
Yeah.
And so to maybe take a second to respect where that person's at. And also I'm wondering if finding a literal flesh and blood person is difficult for whatever reason. I wonder if internet people can be a good substitute. And even if it's a one-way relationship, like listening to maybe motivational tapes or listening to a bunch of podcasts or conversations where I'm friends with this person, I'm great friends with this person, I've never met them, they've never talked to me, but I'm listening to them all the time, and maybe I'm responding to what they say with my own thoughts. So I kind of have this this community, and I doubt it's as good as the real thing if you could have someone in person that is of the same quality as this online person. But even that, I think, would be helpful in that situation.
It's crazy that you mentioned that, because recently I watched a video from Good Mythical Morning, and they have built up this community where it's just like they have really made a video for like every time you're say like you're having breakfast, there's a new video up already for you to watch. Like they've literally become part of your morning routine, as they say for their videos. It's like, thank you for making us part of your daily or your morning routine. So it's like they literally are there as like very much like friends to you.
Fuck yeah.
And they haven't really realized that until like at one point one of the other crew members like reached out through a tweet and was just like, hey, it's like I'm just curious to all the mythical beasts out there, like what has GMM mean? Like, what does GMM mean to you? And then they all responded back, and they sat Rhett and Link down, who haven't seen these tweets, and they like said it out to him. They're like, "Wow, we didn't realize like how much we have had an impact on these people." But like, yeah, like if you feel that way, like that's great. Like we never thought that we'd ever reach this point of it, but yeah, we're definitely that type of community where like we may not know you personally, but I'm as much of your friend or family as like you would want me to be.
Yeah, man. And people talk a lot about the internet detaching people from quote unquote real life or detaching people from communities, but there is that aspect to it as well. The internet to giving you a community.
Yeah, it definitely can go back and forth where like people could lose certain social cues or social aspects because they're too attached to the internet. Yes, like there is an argument to that, but there's also an argument of that, you know, people learn a ton off of the internet as well. They take all the like really good stuff and they become even better people too.
Did you see Ready Player One?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Very good movie.
I feel like we're feeling touches of that now, of diving into the virtual world and having that literally be the world.
Yeah. I remember, do you know what HoloLenses are? No. So the HoloLenses I think are a Microsoft product, and they have not been released for consumers, but they've been released for like much more like factory workers and such. I don't know where at the moment they use it. I haven't researched too much into it, but they have like various versions. I think there's like up to like maybe HoloLens like 2 or 3 now. They've prototyped it like crazy, but it's augmented reality, not virtual reality. Augmented reality in the sense that you still see like what this is, but there's ways for you to alter what you see within those HoloLenses.
Cool. Like I could have a hologram standing here, literally on the reel.
Yeah. So I can give you an example. Like say like if it is like factory work or like construction work, and it's like say like spectacles like this, and they're like say these are like HoloLenses, and you're also wearing it, and we're connected at the moment. But like say you're like 1,000 miles like somewhere else, but like we're talking through these lenses. I see you through like kind of like this like webcam version of it, and I don't know how to say screw in a screw. I don't know how to screw in a screw. You can, from where you are, able to draw an action or like perform an action for me to know how to do it. You can't perform it for me, but you can show me how it's done in this like say like, oh yeah, so step 1, you're like drawing it out,
and you can literally draw like in the air.
Yeah, so like I can like they can see what I see. So like they could be like circling that screw. Like you see this screw and you see that screwdriver. Take that screwdriver and turn it, like put it into the screw and turn it this way, and it will go deeper in.
Cool.
And it will be like teaching someone that, like, so that's just an example of like what it could do. It has like many other features of like all these different things, but like it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Technology has gone a long way, but like I feel like we're still like behind our technology. Like our technology is advancing like way faster than we can keep up. So like we don't even know what the fuck we can do with these things. Like there's just so much to it.
Dude, have you heard of time dilation?
Time dilation?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
Where apparently people are working on things in technology where I can put you into a form of augmented reality or virtual reality. I think virtual reality specifically. And I can make you experience time either slower and faster than you normally do. So I can put you in there and it's like you spent 10 hours in there, but you've only spent 10 minutes, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, because you know you can go into a dream and it can seem like, I don't know, maybe you've spent days in this dream, maybe even weeks. Like, have you ever had some experience? But you wake up and it's only been 12 hours. So we have a capability within us to switch how we perceive time. And I've heard this being used on the darker end of things for prisoners, so you could have like I don't know, crazy example, 1,000-year sentence, but you're only living out a month. And all the weird ways you could do that. So you could play a video game in one of the Rick and Morty sketches. This actually is a thing where they live out an entire lifetime in the course of like 20 minutes, and they're just playing this video game. So you could literally start to live. I mean, we talked earlier about several lifetimes within lifetime, but this would take that to a whole other level.
So then that makes me think then if that's like a possible thing that they're working on, like say they put someone in there for what, like 10 minutes, but to them feels like 10 hours. Can they use that 10 hours of like doing something productive or learning something, like say trying to learn, like pick up an instrument or something like that? So like 10 hours a day, they're stuck in there, but really it's only 10 minutes, but they're forced to try and learn this. Can they come out from that 10 minutes
On
and
some Matrix
learn?
shit.
Yeah. So like what feels like 2 hours real time to them has been now math.
Yeah,
But,
dude. Then you
like-
start to push the limits of how much can a brain store.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like thinking like, can they come out from there with only 2 hours real time and now be like a professional at like whatever it is that
Maybe.
so that's
Have you heard of the singularity?
singularity. Like
The concept is common in Silicon Valley. It's almost like a new religion that's popping up. So the idea is that let's say we reach a point of, I'll call it critical mass, in the development of one of several technologies. Maybe we reach a certain point in nanotechnology, or a certain point in time dilation, or a certain point in being able to enhance our human brain's processing speed, or developing AI, right? And so on and so forth. There's several other technologies this applies to. And you reach a certain point of development in this technology. And what that does is after you've passed this point, it insanely speeds up the rate of progress for all these other game-changing technologies. So I heard it described, Ray Kurzweil, sci-fi writer and also very smart guy in that field. He wrote a book called The Singularity, describing this sort of thing. But I've heard it described as, imagine the course of a month where you have had literally hundreds, if not thousands, of Nobel Prize winning, reality changing technologies come in the span of a month, and that we're apparent. Well, some people say we're getting closer and closer to this point of singularity, where it's this one small point in time where boom, the entire world is different. Like imagine something as crazy as the internet. I can talk to people thousands of miles away. I can learn a million different topics, and so on and so forth. Imagine if you had thousands of that equivalent of technology created, right?
right.
So you go into a coma for a month, come back out. Now people have super strength. We're already going to Mars now. That's like now people can actually go live there. People are living in the VR of Ready Player One level in ways that we just can't imagine.
So it's just like revolutionary thing within like just thing after thing after thing in like just a small amount of time.
And like every one of these developments would, if this were to happen by itself, you'd be like, oh, it's a whole new world now. It's like from moving to a horse to an airplane.
Right.
But then you have hundreds of that happening really quickly.
I feel like that would be like too much for someone to ever even handle. Like they would feel like they're like been out of the loop. They've been like behind on it, and there's so much to catch up on. It's like the person themselves needs an update. Like they need a patch.
Yeah, you might literally happen,
Where the
dude.
fuck have I been?
Like, you know Cortana in Halo?
Yeah.
Like, you might just have your own personal Cortana.
Yeah.
You might literally have things implanted in you so you can process information as fast as a supercomputer.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, and it sounds so crazy, like it's impossible, the realm of sci-fi, like it never happened. But to think that we're living in an age where we have laser cannons now. We've gone to space. We have, like, dude, think about how quickly video games have developed from Pong, like in the 80s or 70s, from no video games to Pong to VR nowadays, where you can be holding guns and shooting zombies. That was super quick.
Yeah. Like it's not that much of a time difference between all of that. So
man.
like you can only think of it like of how much of an exponential ramp that we're gonna get in a smaller amount of time. Like from 200 years to 150 to 100, like 50 to the next year, you're getting this like crazy shit that's happening.
And to think we could be alive within that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Excited to see like what could be in store.
Yes.
For like our younger generations to come. It's like, oh, we didn't. Then it'll be like, I was like, oh, we didn't have this when we were younger.
Literally. Dude, my dad literally came to America on a propeller plane.
Oh, really?
From Puerto Rico, yeah. Well, he was technically still in America, but
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I hear we live in the age of spin.
spin.
Where it's the age of just such unknown. It's just this wacky question mark of what the fuck humanity is gonna do.
Yep. Just like in a vortex of what the fuck.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Literally, I've heard described if you look over the long arc of history and you were to go from 10,000 years ago to 9,000 years ago to 8,000 years ago, a lot of the technologies wouldn't be very different. People are probably still using bows and arrows, still being transported around on like horse and buggy. But then over the past few hundred years, it's like, oh my God, if you're to do like I just said, go from 1,000 years to 1,000 years in the future, it's like, holy shit, nuclear fission, fucking airplanes, going to the moon, so on and so forth. Yeah, yeah.
Like, I was thinking like how they thought of like cars like back then with like just the very first form of a car versus like trying to tell them that our future now is like. Have you ever heard Tesla? It's like they're like, what the fuck is that? What do you mean it runs on electric? What the fuck's electricity?
It can drive itself? Like what?
The fuck's a lane? And it can detect lanes.
You have interstate highways? Like there's just one road that goes from the East Coast to the West Coast? What?
No way.
No fucking way.
That's just not connected.
Yeah. It must be broken down. Probably robberies happen all the time on the highway. Like, nah, bro. Potholes
Unclaimed
everywhere.
territory. It's very dangerous. You'll probably die if you cross it.
You don't die of dysentery anymore? What is this?
Literally the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Just like that. All of that.
And the fact that it seems so normal, that's one of the things that constantly baffles me. It's like, yeah, can go up. People can view it thousands of miles away. There's no emotional response I have to that.
Yeah, but like I'm also thinking on the caliber of like we lived in a time of like, did you have a flip phone growing up at all?
Yeah,
you did,
or a slide, one of the two.
Yeah, either way, it's not like what we have now with like the phones. But like we've been through so many generations of like updates of like phones. Went from like very first, so we had flip phones or slide phones. People had like sidekicks. People had Nokias, like Razors, where it's like your typical common flip phone. But then now it's like the first ever iPhone. It's like it's touch screen and all this stuff. Like you don't have to flip it. It's just this one flat screen. It has all the widgets and apps.
Go on the fucking internet.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to before, like you'd probably need to pay to go on this terrible version of internet there, where you would have to. I don't know.
Like it was only for texting and calling very recently.
And texting on a flip phone, you have to say you wanted the letter C.
Just call. It's more convenient.
You have to press 1 3 fucking times in order to get the letter C.
Dude, and now it's just I've gone to restaurants where they will from the start give you just a QR menu.
Yep.
They don't even give you. They'll give you a menu with drinks, and on it is a QR code. And if you ask for a real menu, they're like kind of take like, what, you don't have a phone? Like
yeah, exactly. It's weird because like it makes it seem like we're slowly transitioning into a much more dependent technology type of world where like we're starting to forget like our roots and stuff like that. But like I'm just thinking we're so like nonchalantly adapting to all of this, and like we don't even think of it until we think back, like until like I just mentioned flip phones. Now we're thinking like, oh wow, we really do have all this shit on like our phones now. Like I can watch anything from anywhere, call anyone from anywhere without having to go and buy minutes like from a phone store.
I can buy a car on my phone.
Yeah, it's like, you what? I would have to go to a dealership and talk to these people. Nope. There's a thing out there that looks like a fucking vending machine now that you can get a car called Carvana. So, like that's crazy.
Do I just want food? You want food right now? You want just sushi brought to our literal doorstep?
Yeah,
like I'm an emperor. Yeah.
I can have that happen. I just gotta pay for the guy like through my phone, you know.
You could pay through your phone?
Yeah,
what? Yeah.
Crazy, right? I have this little plastic thing that holds all my money.
And even that's going away, right? Dude, imagine if cryptos became the norm. I hear some places are taking crypto now as a legitimate currency.
Places used to take Bitcoin. Places like before Bitcoin was that big, people used to take Bitcoin and people would actually sell their Bitcoin for it. And
they're probably kicking the shit out of themselves now.
They're just like kicking the walls, punching everything in their sight, just like,
fuck? Literally.
Seeing that it spiked up to like 70,000 at one point per Bitcoin. They're like,
What the fuck? But that's the weird game of investing, man.
Yeah.
Because especially something as volatile as that, it could drop to like from 30,000 to 2,000 overnight. It could go that extreme too.
yeah, then you're like, holy shit, I just lost so much money. But then the other thing about it is like, you didn't lose that money just yet. It could go back up.
And did you have the balls to hold on to it?
Yeah, exactly. Or is it gonna get worse? Who knows?
Yeah.
I was like that with Dogecoin. Did you invest in Dogecoin at all?
I don't know. I have some Ethereum and little Bitcoin, some things like that. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't on the Doge wave. It could still.
Yeah, no, I was on the Doge wave when it was about. I wish I hopped into it even earlier, but I hopped onto it when it was like about 5 cents.
Oh my god.
Yeah, about 5 cents, and I put about $150 into it, and I got about 3,000 Dogecoins. So like 3,000 Dogecoins, like each one of these could be like worth so much at one point. And then I like held on for like a couple months, and then like it started getting like to like 10 cents and 15 cents. I'm like, whoa, it's getting up there. Yeah. So like already it's 3 times the amount that I had bought it for. Holy shit. And then the peak of it went to 75 cents. The peak.
God damn.
Yeah, it went to 75 cents, and I'm looking through my Robinhood like, that's a lot of money I got right now that I could just like try and cash out.
But what if it goes to $1, $2,
Exactly.
$3?
So I held on. I was like, if it reaches $1, I'll sell if it reaches $1. That was like my
the cutoff point.
The cutoff point. It's like, if it reaches $1, I'm gonna sell it because that's a shit ton of money that I just like now got out from it.
Yeah.
If it goes higher, whatever.
Did you have a low cutoff point too?
So it did go back down. It didn't quite reach $1. It went back down. It kept going back down after it went to 75 cents. Probably because a shit ton of people started selling, so the market of it just went back down, down, and down, down, and has stayed that way for a while. It went
Are you still holding on to it?
No, I did sell, but I sold like a bit late. I still made maybe 4 or 5 times the amount.
That's not that bad.
5 times. I made 5 times the amount that I invested. But yeah, because I sold it at 25 cents. But I was like, damn, if I had sold it at 75.
Dude, I was listening actually earlier to someone called Ray Dalio, and if you're ever interested in investing, he's the Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan of investing. Like, hands down. If you're curious, man, listen, he has Instagram channel, and he'll just post little tidbits on it. And he said one of the hardest parts about the investing world is that so often you have to go against your instincts.
Yeah.
Like your emotions, because the point at which it's best to sell, if you consult your emotions, they'll be screaming to hold on to it, right? And the point at which it's best to buy or to hold on, your emotions will probably be screaming to don't buy, don't hold on to it, like sell it now. And that's a strange part about the investing game, to be able to step out from, like, detach. Just detach from your emotions, if only for a second, to make those sorts of business decisions. And that's just that seemed a very useful piece of advice.
Yeah. It's like was like Doctor Strange's mentor, where like she like hits him outside of his own body. Yeah, it's like that, and just like telling your physical self like, fuck you, don't listen to that.
Dude, that's an interesting skill to have, being able to detach from emotions.
Yeah.
To be like in the heat, because you'll get a weird perspective. I don't know if you've ever not been in an argument. You heard, I don't know, your parents or some friends or just random people on the street arguing, and you have no emotional stake in it. And you can see much more clearly hypocrisies people are making when someone's saying, oh, you need to do this because of XYZ, but you can see as they're going through the argument, like, wait, you're not doing exactly what you're telling them.
Yeah, you've done that.
Yeah, like you're literally doing that in the argument.
Yeah.
And there's a strange clarity you can get from being able to detach from that emotion. And even if the detachment is literally like I'm getting up and I'm walking away from it for a second, but you begin to realize there's like a muscle I can build inside of me. So slowly and steadily, I don't have to do as much physical things. Like, let's say we're in an argument, like, okay, let me just take a breather, walk away. You walk away for, I don't know, a few hours, and you kind of calm down. You get some clarity, and you can come back. But you start to realize, oh, I can learn to do that quicker and quicker, and I can be in the argument. And, all right, I'm noticing that I'm like, oh, my fucking breathing's getting heavier. Like, I'm moving quickly. My rage is spiking. Okay, snap, I'm detached from it for a second. How do I view the arguments now? And it can just offer some very important keys and insights.
Yeah, very, very much so. Like, you cloud a lot of your judgment if that were the case for it. And I feel like that would definitely be a power for sure to be able to just snap right into that from 100 straight back to like 0.
Zero, yes.
And you're just like, then now you can think clearly of everything. That would definitely be a power.
If you're interested in that, or anybody who's listening, a man called Jocko Willink, who was a military commander, and he just said that was incredibly useful, right? Because it's hard to imagine a situation in which your emotions will be more spiked than a battlefield. And he said he would pride himself on his ability to, and that in the military, apparently this is something people pride themselves on. If you're in the heat of it, right? Like, you're in a terrible situation, you're getting shot at, like, you're seconds away from potentially dying, but you go on the radio and you're not like, I didn't think that, no. Because then it's just going to be static, and then other people start panicking, and panic has a weird tendency to spread.
Yep.
But if you just go on it in the heat of all that, and you're like, excuse me, I need fire at this location, 151 coordinates, like XYZ, and then he just said it was incredibly useful. And yeah.
Yeah, that would be very. Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because a panic, it does spread like wildfire. They see one person panic, like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And then they see, like, you look over to your right, that person's panicking because that person's panicking. Like, what's going on?
Because it's weird. This is a funny quote from Joe Rogan. He's talking about a story where he's in a fire. Well, he's in a supposed fire in this hotel, and they're going down the stairwell because he said don't use the elevators. And he's like, okay, don't panic, because a lot of people are like half dazed. They woke up in the middle of their sleep. A lot of people are probably on sleeping pills. That was like the part of its joke. And it's on This Is Not Happening. Dude, if you've never seen that, it's a collection of comedy skits where people just tell stories. It's on YouTube. This Is Not Happening. Wonderful thing. So continuing on. And he's like, man, don't panic. You don't want to be the first guy to panic, but you don't want to be the last guy to panic either. Like, if everyone's freaking out and running, you don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, come on, man, everyone calm down. But like 99% of people are freaking out. Like, maybe there's a time to freak out and be spazzy.
Yeah.
And then it's just like,
you're a little too calm right now for this situation.
You should be running really fast. Maybe screaming.
Yeah. You're like a guy that has nothing to lose at this moment. So you should freak out a little bit.
So maybe there's, on the opposite token, it's good to be able to go from a 0 to 100 and then from 100 back to 0 to be like water, right? Know when is it time to explode, when is it time to cool.
Very cool.
Yes.
It's very funny, because like then there's always, I think there's like been pranks out there when people, and I mean, I'm pretty sure you aren't allowed to do this, but people yelling like fire and stuff like that. Oh my God,
yeah.
And like you just see like a whole crowd of people, like once the person yells that, then everyone just starts running. Either that, or like it's another like harmless prank where a person is running and looks like they're in like panic, and they just keep turning around, and it's just a cameraman just showing like how people react when they run by these people. They're just like panting and running, and like just as they run by, they're just looking back like,
dude, I have a friend who I'm not gonna name, but you know who the fuck you are, who I swear to God, if he doesn't stop doing this, he's gonna get himself fucking shot. We're in a thrift store, right? And okay, so we'll stack on several things, right? Okay, so there is a stereotype placed on to the black community in America that a lot of people have, whether or not they admit it. There is whether through movies you see, what's constantly on the news, I'm not saying it's accurate, but there can be this caricature you have in the back of your head, right? So you stack that on top of, he's wearing like boots, I think jeans or sweatpants, and he's kind of fit, and we're in a thrift store, and he puts on a trench coat, and he is wearing the trench coat with his hands like deeply in his pockets, and he just starts power walking around and like frantically like turning his head and twitching, and we're like, stop fucking doing that. And like, and every now and then he'll stop and like rip open his jacket and like, this isn't like, you're gonna get shot. You're gonna activate someone's PTSD who's like an army veteran here.
Oh my God.
Just tackles you. But yeah. Yeah.
It's very funny.
And you could say, like, what, man? I'm just walking around, like, looking around quickly. It's like, no, we're evolved to have our alarm systems go off if someone's fidgeting or twitching. Like, you don't want to see that.
Funny, but not funny at the same time.
Yeah. Funny if nothing bad happens.
Right. On the topic of stereotypes, it's funny because there's a story about Robert. One time, I took him to an Asian market one time, so very nostalgic to me. Felt like home, just a regular market for me. And I'm like seeing all these different snacks that I've been used to growing up, and he's like, "Oh, I've never seen these." So I'm like exposing him to this like culture,
Beautiful.
and then it's funny because like he like forgot that we were out in public at one point, and then he was like reading some of the snacks names, and like
Did he say it with an Asian accent?
he said it with an Asian accent, and he was like reading the snack, and there was an Asian family, like literally. Yeah, he finished his sentence, and I was like, I looked at Robert, and like I like smiled at him, and then I like blinked, kind of like awkwardly, and I was just like, and he like. He turned it back to me. He was like, he widened his eyes. He was like,
Oh, he did the eye slit too?
he like widened his eyes, and he just looked at me, and he was like, oops. I was like, I forgot where I was for a second. I was like, yeah, and there's a family like right there.
Dude, what was the look on the family's face? Did they have?
I don't know if they fully heard him or not, but he said it kind of loud.
Maybe
it was
they
like,
just thought he was from the mainland.
yeah, it's funny. It's like he forgot where he was for a second, and I didn't take any